held at council chambers at 7:30 on Tuesday, July 14th, 2015, right here at Ridge Road, 6333 Ridge Road, Port Richey, Florida. I'm calling the meeting to order because Mayor Eloise Taylor cannot be here tonight, so I'm standing in as the vice mayor. If you would all please stand for the invocation by the Reverend Sandy Spalding, Chapel of Divine Spirit, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Reverend.
Dear God, creator of all there is and ever shall be, our divine spirit, we ask that you guide us all, granting us wisdom to make the proper decisions for the highest good of our city and the people that work for our city, our police, our firemen, and for all the residents. We ask that you grant us the wisdom to know which is the best way for us to make our decisions. I would also like to add, may we all remember our mayor in our prayers this evening for her health. Amen.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Please let the record show that Mayor Eloise Taylor is absent this evening. Vice Mayor Bill Colombo.
Here.
Councilman Steve O'Neill.
Here.
Councilwoman Nancy Britton. Here. Councilman Terrence Rowe.
Here.
City Attorney Joseph Public.
Here.
And City Manager Tom O'Neill.
Here.
Okay, we have the approval of council minutes of the regular city council meeting of June 23rd, 2015. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passes. Announcements, Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, at a meeting last month, we talked about scheduling a future meeting and notifying the Waterfront Overlay District property owners of the meeting in order to solicit their comment. I'd like to schedule that meeting on August 4 if it meets with your approval. That's the first Tuesday in August.
At?
Here.
No, I know that. I mean, it's 7 o'clock.
Yes, at 7 o'clock.
You might have said that, and I might have missed it. Yeah. Anybody have an issue with that? Well,
The 4th.
first Tuesday, he said.
Yeah,
7.
we would not have a regular meeting that night, and so
Right.
that gives us time to get the notification out on the meeting, and if that's okay with you.
I'm not, I don't know that I'll be here. I'm scheduled to be out of town.
Is there another night that,
The week after that.
we would have a regular council meeting on the following Tuesday? If you wanted to come in early, maybe we could do it at 6:30 on the 10th?
It's hard to say how
Excuse me.
early is acceptably early, but
Can you make it at 6:30?
How about 7?
we have
We-
7,
Leave enough
7,
time?
7. Do I hear 7, 7?
Leave enough time, or do we do it after the meeting? I mean, we haven't had long meetings,
Why
so.
don't we just do it the next day, maybe? Or,
You're already coming in Tuesday, and a lot of times, you look at the agendas in the last several months.
you can't be here until, well, if the agenda's not huge, we should be,
Yeah, it's up to you. I mean, if you
7
want to hold it
o'clock
on the
enough
same
time?
night as a council meeting, you could convene the regular council meeting immediately after your work session, if that's acceptable to you.
Well, usually I like to keep the regular council meeting at 7:30 because that's what people focus in for,
Sure.
to be at a regular council meeting. So it would have to be a definite time before the council meeting or an indefinite time after the council meeting.
I can always phone in.
Well, I think it probably would be important for you to be here, so maybe if you didn't see fit to have it the next Tuesday, maybe we could have it on, it would be the 18th, the third Tuesday in August. It's up to you. If you feel like doing it on the same night as the council meeting, which would be August 11, I believe.
Yes, sir. Yeah, see, I travel a lot, so I won't be here again. Usually I'm not around the first and third week of the month.
So try, I can try the Tuesday at 6:30. I mean, it's, you know, if that's worth the half hour. I think it's gonna be easier than her rescheduling something, you know, a week later, or trying to fit it in the council in a half hour, or doing it the next week, you know. If it's something you've already laid out there for the 4th, you know, people maybe are already,
Yeah, I haven't notified anybody yet, but we could,
I don't know if people called in and asked.
so we could
Try
make.
that. Try for 6:30 on the 4th. That would work for, or are you gonna be gone, you said?
I'll be gone.
Oh, okay, so 6:30. then.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to leave the first and third weeks of the month.
Oh,
Go-
no, I'm talking about 6:30.
On the 11th.
On the 11th.
Oh, on the 11th, that's fine, yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Is that good with everybody?
I think
Well, yeah,
that'd
we
be
can
the
make it work,
easiest.
yeah.
Okay. So we'll convene at
Enough time.
6:30.
Probably need a good hour, I'm sure. Half hour's not gonna be enough. Okay. So 6:30, the 11th.
Okay.
6:30.
I have no other
No
comment.
other things? Mr. City Attorney?
We had a meeting of the Charter Committee yesterday for the county. They're still going through the discussion. We had presentations by the chairman of the county commission, also the supervisor of election came. There was some discussion regarding term limits, nonpartisan races, single-member districts. The tentative schedule is a final decision by the committee is going to be made on August 10th, whether or not to go forward and start preparing a county charter. But there is some flexibility with that, but as it stands right now, that's, on August 10th, we'll know whether or not the committee is going to go forward and draft a charter. That's it.
Okay. Interesting news. Interesting what'll finally be in there when they draft it, too. Definitely bears worth watching. Thank you, sir. Comments from the general public? We have Thomas Brown. We have you signed up, sir.
Thomas Brown, 7436 Candlelight Court, Newport Richey, Florida, 34652. That is my mailing address in case any of you have misplaced the self-addressed stamped envelope that I provided you with. It was not my idea, but after reviewing the preliminary development plan with all of its perpetual public easements, the Port Richey City Council and the mayor decided to annex this parcel of New Port Richey into the city of Port Richey. Although the current city manager, city attorney, and code enforcement department will not recognize the easements that were approved by a former city council and the mayor, they are there, as they are shown on Pasco County Plat Book 18. The annexation is the reason why I live in the city of Port Richey, but have a new Port Richey address. Now, to change the conversation to the matter of a one-year-old unanswered question. In May of 2014, I contacted ABC Action News in an attempt to get help with the issue I am having with the 6-foot PVC fence at 7447 Candlelight Court, obstructing my view of Lake Cox. Jackie Calloway of ABC Action News called me back on June 5th. She said she had just spoken with City Manager Tom O'Neill, and because it was his opinion that Lake Cox was a dug lake or a retention pond, the fence issue could not be resolved until it was proven that Lake Cox was naturally formed or a dug lake. She said that she was told that city ordinance will allow a resident to obstruct the view of a dug lake, but not a natural body of water. More than 1 year ago, the city manager had an opinion that Lake Cox was a dug lake, and I had an opinion that Lake Cox was a natural body of water. I have submitted to the city manager and all of the council members 3 types of proof that Lake Cox is a natural body of water. Have any of you been shown any proof that Lake Cox is a dug lake? I have waited more than a year for an answer to a simple question. has it been proven that Lake Cox is, in contradiction to my 3 forms of proof, a dug lake? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Jeff Starkey.
No answer again.
Mr. Starkey.
Hello. Jeff Starkey, 73, excuse me, 48, Astor Drive, Newport Richey, Florida, 34652. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak. I know pretty much all of you in the room, I believe. I'm on the Newport Richey City Council, and I'm also the MPO rep for the city of Newport Richey. MPO is a metropolitan planning organization, and I feel like a lone soldier at the meetings, basically, from West Pasco. I know Mayor Taylor is ill. I was sorry to hear that, but I don't know how long she's been the rep. I've been on the MPO for just over 2 years, and I've yet, in that period of time, I don't think I've ever seen a rep from Port Richey attend the meetings. And it's very, 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 very important, in my opinion, that West Pasco has a voice, because most of the talk is between East Pasco, West Pasco, all the developments on the east side, and I'm constantly fighting for changes for US 19 to the median, just everything I can, and I really could use some help from the city of Port Richey as well. So I don't know if you guys have been to a meeting, but it's all the county commissioners and 1 rep from each municipality, and all the municipalities show up except for Port Richey. So I urge you to maybe consider appointing another council member to be the MPO rep, and please start attending the meetings. Like I said, we're charting out roads, sidewalks, bike paths for the next 50 years in Pasco County, and we need as much of a voice for West Pasco to represent our territories as possible. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Starkey.
Excuse me, can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
When and what time are these meetings?
They go from Dade City to Newport Richey. Our last meeting was just last week. They're normally monthly. Sometimes we'll skip a month. They're normally at 10 a.m. on the second or third. I believe it's the second Thursday of every month. And like I said, we were in Dade City this past week, so we'll be in Newport Richey, Pasco Government Center next month. But if y'all could just consider doing that, it would really, really
Well,
go a long way.
we'd actually have to take a day off of work, everybody.
Well, for years, Rich Roper was that representative, and he was on for several years.
Right.
And his work did allow him
To go, yeah.
to do that. And you're right, it's important that we
Very
have
important,
that we have a member there. I think we just kind of got away from it,
Mhm.
and quite frankly, everybody was like, well, wait a minute, they meet what time? So,
Yeah, no, I'm self-employed, so my schedule's a little more flexible, but
Yeah.
you know, you get there at 10, you're normally done by 12. The meetings in Dade City are kind of rough, obviously. You're not getting back till 1:30 or so, but you know, here in Newport Richey, you're there at 10, you're out at 12.
And they're monthly.
Monthly, yes.
So
But like I
we-
said, out of the 12 scheduled meetings last month, I think they canceled 2 or 3 of them, so. But very, very important, so please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Starkey. Ms. Spalding.
Sandra Spalding, 8207 Old Post Road. Something council had brought up a while back, which is every so often gives me a little stick, about the trash. Someone at council had said that we should have the one trash company to pick up everything. That's not good. That's not right. We need to have a choice on who we want to have. And I don't think it's right for you guys to even think about anything like that. Number one, the prices are different. Number two, we're used to having whom we choose. Why should you tell us who we need to have to pick up our trash? I've had the same trash company pick up my trash for 22 years. They're wonderful. If you don't choose them, hello. No, we should have our choice, same as we've had all these years. Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spalding. Anybody else? Yep, I got one other here.
Morning, good afternoon, good
Good
evening.
afternoon, good evening.
Rich Mel, 5342 Blue Point. I have a couple questions in regards to, don't have a clear understanding of how our city manager is able to only spend $10,000 without the city council's approval, but we can just write off $600,000 worth of water bills. I have a huge issue with that. I'm trying to figure out how council allows that to happen. That's one. The other one I want to know is why council receives the budget right before they're scheduled to have people ask intelligent questions about that. I feel like, as a council member, I would want at least a week or 2 weeks possibly to review that budget, to actually have questions that I could intelligently answer.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Priest.
Jim Priest, 5100 Sunset Boulevard. I got to agree with Mr. Milton in here. I think, we've been fiscally responsible for decades here, done very well with it. I think it would behoove the council, okay, to determine a couple things. One, we had an auditor show up, at the last meeting and advise something to me that was a little bit concerning in here, that if we are going down a certain path, we may have cash flow issues. Okay, and I think we might want to address that. Okay, the idea of the 600,000 with the fees and all that such, and they're going to 9. I know there might be a legal issue in here, but I guess the point being that we need to put checks and balances in place that don't allow us to go down those roads. And the other thing that came up in the last meeting in here that we didn't get a chance to speak to was the idea when we had to pay the state of Florida an additional $60-some thousand in here. Again, it's a check and balance system in here. We can't simply, agree to continue to write checks like this. This is not prudent. It's not responsible as far as our bookkeeping is concerned, and we just need to keep a better eye on it. And if it's something we just need to review, then let's do that. And this is not a pointing the finger at anybody or anything else, but it's simply said that there was a lot of money left out there on each different occasion, and if we're going down a road where we may have some issues as far as cash flow is concerned, then I think we need to address them.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, let's move on to our, what do we got at that? Announcements, comments. Oh, comments from the mayor and council. Sorry. Let's bring it up here, folks.
First off, we are just about ready to sign a contract with Investigation Station so we can go forward with the splash pad. Very excited about that. I just hope my committee comes together. We kind of disbanded for a little while, but hopefully they'll come together and join behind me again. And I just wanted to bring something to your attention that Mr. Brown gave me before the meeting. The property that I inquired about, I guess it was last meeting, on Washington Street, and I said there's a for sale sign up there. Apparently, according to Mr. Brown, it was purchased by Bel Air Group, $975,000 initially. And so they came in here, they got their PUD for their 78 homes, which is better, honestly, than what they were allowed to do prior. They were allowed to do like 177 homes. But now the property is up for sale for $3.5 million. So they had no intentions of building anything.
No, I think we knew that.
Anyway.
It's part of business on that
Yeah.
end, but anyway.
Go ahead.
Terry, I've got a few things, but.
First, I want to thank Sherry, our code enforcement officer. Tom notified me this week that she was instrumental in getting the property next to Walmart that's forested. There's been a lot of problems in that parcel for a great many years. And the owners, I guess, came into town recently and were not happy with what they saw had happened to their property. So from what Tom tells me, Sherry took it upon herself to get them motivated, and we are now seeing some open area that's going to expand there. They brought in a bush hog, and they're clearing off most of the low-lying vegetation, so you'll be able to see through that property. I think that's going to help the police department a lot in their surveillance and maybe knock down a lot of the problems we've been having there. So I want to thank her personally. The other thing I want to address is at the next meeting, I will put a motion forward to rescind a vote that we had on the Whiskey River Pier. Now, I've looked at Robert's rules, and this is a procedure. If I do this at this meeting and make notice of it, I can put the motion out there next meeting. I hope by that time our city attorney will have enough background information and enough of the legal standing we may have to see if it's something that we may want to change our minds on. I've heard a lot in the last week or so back and forth, and I think we need some legal representation, some legal information on that. Make sure we're going in the right direction, because I don't want to have a lawsuit, and especially one that we'd lose. So I will be making that motion next meeting. And then with regards to the write-off, that large utility write-off, I think it's something that probably should come to council again for discussion before we move to the next budget. It's just something, you know, with an amount that large, people were coming to me asking, don't you have any say in this? And I said, I believe we should. And so it's been on our table for a long time. We've talked about it, but I don't remember personally making a decision to write it off. And so I think that's something collectively the council should do. So I'd like to see that on the next agenda as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. I just wanted to bring back with the ethics classes for the council. I think it's, we have until, December. I know Joe's going to bring us some information. I think next month we look to kind of close this out, whether it be an online thing, a class thing. We do it on a Saturday. That's a good 4 to 6 hours, I think you mentioned. But we need to make a decision on that so that we finish that up. I don't know if there's any Restore Act updates. I know you'd given some in the past. Maybe when I don't know if we have another CRA meeting that's dated or something, and we would, look at some updates at that particular point. The reason I mention that is I believe the very first item was a scope of work noted to be included from Taylor Engineering. A scope of work, a request perhaps, but the timeline, if you go back and look at it, was an email was sent to us. That timeline was July. We're in July. And I also believe, I think we have Fox tonight, but I also believe that there may be a recommendation in moving that date up. There was a mention of a February 2016 date, so I'm not sure. That'd probably be explained to us a little bit more. That's a long string of activity that goes along with that flow diagram that we were given. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. I think that regarded the multi-year implementation plan and its date starting with the February 2016. We may get this on an agenda as well. This obviously came out during the audit as well, and has not been talked about. I think we've hinted at it in the past, but I think I still have it here too. It was actually the 2015 comparative stormwater fee survey. You see Tampa, and then you see Port Richey, and then guess what? You see everybody else. So this is something we really need to get cutting with, discussions. Those revenues that were noted by the audit to be insufficient to operate the utility, basically. Also, I think Tom noted there is some 50% cooperative funding. And, look, we have somebody that's got experience from the ground up with something like this. So, we really, really have to bring back, and I know you probably have it on an agenda in the future that this is an item that we want to cover. I just want to see if we can't get it going a little bit quicker. We see what happened when we attacked the water late. This is one I don't want to get too much more of a later start on. I do want to give a shout out to Utility and Public Works for the quick service, I believe, on Pine Hill. We had some activity there, and that really went well. The MPO rep, we got to try to get a handle on this. I know everybody works. I know it's a horrible time to have a meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning. I travel just as well. I know Nancy does. I know everybody's busy. Maybe we can look at this. You know, Rich Rober did it for years. I just, you know, we need to try to resolve that. It's kind of embarrassing. We're the only ones that aren't there. You want to say something real quick, Nancy? I've just got a couple more
Just a
things.
quick question.
Yeah.
On that note, does it have to be a council member that goes?
I don't think so.
It always has been.
Oh, okay.
And
mean, it was
the
Rich
same
Rober
goes
for years.
Yes.
Several
Same goes
years.
for the other cities. They're all elected officials.
Yeah. And his schedule was pretty flexible, as this young man's was. So anyway, you mentioned trash collection, and I know maybe Bill will speak on this. This was something I think you brought a long time ago, and Sandy made some comments on it. Maybe you want to add a little bit to that argument, because we've talked about it. There may be some other ideas out there, but I think this obviously brought a benefit to the city when we talked about revenue, and that's what's part of its purpose, obviously. As far as the write-off on the that was noted during the audit, you know, look, when we're constantly throwing out a number. We threw out numbers when we had U.S. Water here too, for all the years that we you know, wrote checks for the $48 shovel. But in establishing a $400,000 reserve for uncollected prior years and some accounts receivable, et cetera, you know, this number gets thrown out there. If we want to talk about it, let's talk about it. But you know, we went through a process to reestablish some rates. That was over a decade period. You know, there's going to be some fallout there, and you know, we also heard there was some legal questions in regard to this, and what were those recommendations? They didn't have too many legs to stand on. So, you know, I think that that plays out as well. I mean, you know, no state of emergency, no detrimental financial conditions. I mean, it seemed like the audit went fairly well. There was some references to cash flow. We'll you know, I think it's probably a good idea to go back on our notes, all the council members, and maybe bring anything forward, you know, that we have maybe as a collective group, and then kind of take it from there. Certainly stormwater's one. Certainly this, you know, write-off's another. Tom's explained it twice. I think the figure is a little bit misleading in the way it's laid out with some of this fuzzy math. But nonetheless, it's probably something for us to consider. There were a few items that he talked about in there that we can probably certainly improve on and discuss.
A couple things I'd like to touch on too. I would agree that the sooner that any of our financial statements can get out to the public, the better. Tammy, do we post the audited financial to the website?
Yes, we do.
Do we? Okay. When do we do that? I mean, do we do it after the meeting? Do we do it as soon as available? Do we do it when the agenda comes out and we get it, which is the previous Thursday?
The audit should have been posted online right after the meeting.
Okay.
Other than that, they're on there as soon as we get them.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, in my personal opinion, there's no reason to wait until after the meeting to post the audited financials, because they are what they are. It's not something we're going to change at the meeting. So, yeah, the same with having Mr. Schatzel out. I'm all in favor of having him out quarterly. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. And, you know, I'd like to see that sort of guidance, professional guidance out there, because we are in slightly, shall we say, rougher waters than we were. So I'd like to keep us out of the bad stuff. Secondarily, I'll address what Mr. O'Neill asked me. You know, he asked if I wanted to talk about it. Well, not really, Steve, but I will, because you asked. Ms. Pauly, I know how you feel, because we have spoken about the trash hauling franchise, and it's just merely a suggestion I've made that many municipalities utilize to not only bring extra income to the city, but essentially get lower rates for the residents too. Now, I'm just saying, it can be done. If it can't be done, I'm not for it. I'm with you. My position has always been that it would not cost the residents, and I'm the one that brought it up, and brought it up with Ellen years ago. If it can't be done with the residents basically getting the lowest rates possible, then I'm up for it. So, we'll discuss it in future meetings. The only reason I brought it up is that there'd been constantly, the concept out there that we should bring up alternative revenues to the city. And frankly, there's just so many revenues the city can go after. People go back to, we can't just put up a toll booth on 19th. That'd be nice, but, but of course, the state doesn't allow you to do it. So, there are just so many ways the state allows a municipality to generate a revenue. So that's the only reason I bring it up. So, but I'm with you. I'm not looking for higher expenses for anybody, and put that to rest right now. Okay. That being said, I think we move on to our first agenda item, which is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Does anybody have any comments, any adds, or any deletions on there? Or?
I just have to say that it made my head spin when I looked at it. I thought to myself, geez, oh, Pete, look at all that money.
Yep. That's
Can we
about
write
it.
less
It's got
checks?
several months in certain categories, so it's higher than it normally would, but as an example, for sewer service.
Yeah, you've got April
and May.
Yeah, see what you're saying. And also one of the trucks that I don't know why you even put the truck in here. I mean, that's fine for the consent agenda, but that was already approved, wasn't it? By council?
This is the payment of it.
Right, but I'm just saying, I don't necessarily expect they to see things that were specifically. In other words, consent agenda, my understanding, the insurance payment, taxes, debt revenue, payroll taxes, all make sense because that's money that's going out that does not come before council, so this is our way to get a look at it and see it. But when we've already approved an item, I'm not sure that it's really necessary to include it.
It's just CYA.
I just preferred to put everything on there that was over the city manager authorization limit.
Right, yeah. Okay, fair enough. So we had a motion, we had a second, we had no comments on it, so the motion passes. Move on to agenda.
that all about?
What's that?
You're just going to pass it? We're not going to get a vote to pass it?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. It was kind of a consent vote, but yeah.
I like to say it.
Well, I know, that's
All right,
I
don't take
used
that away
to
from me.
do
I'll
consent
vote
votes, but it seems like everybody seems to enjoy voting it out, so
We
it's
do.
like,
We
so
do.
I'll go ahead and
Old
do it.
habits are hard to break.
All right, on to agenda item number 2, Fox Enterprises proposal. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, thank you. As you'll see from review of the memorandum that I included in the packet, I've had several discussions with Mr. Fox of Fox Enterprises regarding possible grant opportunities that the city may be eligible for. We've talked about this on several occasions. Mr. Fox has recently informed me that the state has moved up the FERDAP application grant deadline to August 14, and that we are eligible to apply for 1 or 2 FERDAP grants for either $50,000 or $200,000. Mr. Fox has also indicated that the $50,000 grants have been funded while the $200,000 applications in the past few years have not. He's proposed to assist us in this FERDAP application process, and due to the staff workload, we're working on the budget. The additional Restore Act money and also the Reclaim Water. I'm putting this up in front of you so that we could make sure and take advantage of Mr. Fox's expertise. He's working and it's submitting for 37 other jurisdictions for FERDAP funding, and I would recommend that we do this. And we talked briefly before the meeting. I'd love to see some improvements at the waterfront park. I think they would qualify, and it's up to you what you want to apply for. The restrooms are probably, I guess, the highest priority in my assessment of it. And so if we prepared something and brought it back to you for your endorsement, and then we could submit it in time for the deadline. So I'm just asking for your consideration to approve a service agreement with Mr. Fox, and that's in front of you for your consideration. And he's here to answer any questions.
Mr. Fox,
Let
would you
me
like to
go
add
over
anything?
when you talk about 50 versus 200. The way this works is you submit on August 14th, DEP staff ranks the applications based upon a scoring mechanism within the applications, which hoops you jump through, what projects or activities you selected. Then that goes to next year's legislature. There's 2 or 3 different rankings for people that applied, or communities that applied for 50,000 or less, communities that applied for over 50,000. You also get into a match situation if you're going for more than 50. And prior to the recession, they funded pretty much both sides of it, some 50s, some 200s, sometimes all the 50s and 200s. It's state money. During the recession, they didn't fund anything. The last 3 years, they started funding again, but each of the last 3 years, they funded all the 50s and none of the larger grants. So that's why we're saying, you sort of look at a pattern and you go, man, there's a pattern developing here. So, that's why we're recommending a 50. Number one, your out-of-pocket cost is going to be for each application. There's a small block ad required as part of the process. So you'll need to pay for that ad in your local paper. And really, we charge 3%. So if you apply for a 50, our fee would be $1,500 if you receive it. If you don't receive it, you don't pay us. And if you pay us, it can come out of the grant. So that's basically the process. The steps are going to be, because you don't have time to amend your capital improvements element, your comp plan, we'll provide a resolution that basically says, if you get the grant, you'll revise your capital improvements element to include the project down the road. You'll have a public meeting. Usually it's in the afternoon. It's not before council. That's advertised, and the only thing on the agenda is the one grant. So if you do it for 2, there'll be 2 ads, 2 little public meetings back to back. At a board meeting, whether it's planning board, if you have a rec board, if not zoning board, we'll just bring them up as 2 agenda items, get the board to recommend the city apply for the grants, and then go before some civic group and tell them what you're doing, get a letter thanking you for informing them that the city's going after a couple of applications. That's the process, along with developing the application itself.
Okay. We'll bring it up to council.
I just have a question. Is there any funding for universal playgrounds?
It's basically outdoor recreation. I mean, again, you're
But
limited
there's
to
no
50.
special funding bucket for universal playgrounds.
Playground is one of the activities you can apply for. I mean, it's not a specific.
Type of
When you look at the
playground.
application, there's 30 points. Playgrounds are probably, and they differ based upon the size of a community. There's different priority lists for each, under 10,000, 10,000 to 25, 25 to 50, and then above 50. I mean, but yeah, both renovation of existing playground or putting in some new equipment. You're not going to put in a whole playground for $50,000.
No.
But and you typically want to do multiple activities. 51% of the funds have to be used for what they term active recreation. So you couldn't take all of it and just do a restroom. You'd have to restroom could not be more than 49% of the funds you're requesting. You'd have to have the rest of it into active recreation. But playground's considered active recreation, whether you renovate or add new, or a combination of the two. If you want to move ahead, I'll sit down with staff and go over, develop a budget, develop the activities for each park, and bring it back to you for approval or revision, between now and the time the applications are due.
Okay.
It's a quick turnaround if you're interested.
Anybody else on council have any comments?
You
or
mentioned
questions?
that your fee would be 3%?
Yeah, of the amount you receive. So if you don't receive anything, you don't pay us anything.
Okay. You consider that standard and customary for this type of?
It's $1,500. I mean,
Yeah. Are we committed to, say, if we put this forth for restrooms and a kiosk and that, when you write this up, are we committed to exactly
you're
that?
committed to the activities we include in the application. You're not, the way it's set up, even though you have a budget in the application, when you actually do a contract with the state, it'll have a total at the bottom, it'll list all the activities, but each one will not have an amount. But as you draw down money, because it is a reimbursement grant, you'll spend some money, get reimbursed 90%, at the end you get the final 10%. You have to, again, show that you spent at least 51% of the funds on on active recreation items. But between if you have 8 or 9 activities in there, and you had in the original budget, say $5,000 for a swing, and it ends up costing you 10, it's not gonna show up in your contract budget. The budget's only gonna be a total at the bottom, and so between the activities, you can spend what you need to spend to complete each of the activities within the budget.
Well, obviously, they felt, you know, as you indicated on here, you know, in regards to Waterfront Park, the restrooms, that's always been a priority. You know, the welcome kiosk itself. I mean, these are certainly worthy things that, you know, we're looking forward. It's, you know, it's almost kind of difficult to discuss just the particular two items when we go to a meeting we had well over a year ago, talking about $1 million plus park. What the park has generally been, you know, recently we had the laser show there. I guess I should say right away, I really hope we're going to get fireworks next year. We ought to start quick on this one. Let's put that on there too. Nothing against the laser show. I think we, you know, it certainly brought people to the site. But anyway, you know, in struggling with Waterfront Park, at least there's one component that I can always look at, being the restrooms. Have needed it for such a long time. I mean, just the pad itself, I know holds, you know, a couple of picnic benches and so forth. And, you know, that was something that was looked at as well. I think we had some other various, you know, closets, et cetera, over there for storage. I don't know if they store lawn equipment and other different things in those particular storage items. But anyway, you know, it would look like hopefully there are more functions there. So, you know, when we talk about restrooms, obviously, you know, we're just talking about a restroom, but nonetheless, I think the funding.
And what activities you want to do is up to you. I'm just, as long as they meet the parameters of the program, doesn't
Right.
matter to me.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm just letting you know that at least 51% of the funds do have to be used for what they term active recreation, which includes picnicking facilities, but restrooms considered support. So you have, and then the kiosk, as I understand what it is, would be considered support as well. So at least you have to spend at least 51% on, you know, whether it's picnic tables or actually some other active kind of recreation. Understand that you would have to include that in the application to meet their requirements.
Is there anything that's an overlap here when we look at, you know, I mean, again, we're looking down the road, and I think, as I mentioned, that February 16th date came up, and we're, you know, pushing forward with the Restore Act funds, et cetera, and that plan of action, you know, obviously, you know, is there any kind of overlap in between? If we're just talking about a restroom and kiosk area, obviously not, and these are two components that, you know, are important within that park, obviously. But
There's no overlap.
Yeah.
What we
I didn't-
applied for with the Restore Act was the Phase 1 component of
Right.
what we split out.
right.
And so there isn't any overlap. These are
Now-
different items.
And by the time, keep in mind, you're going to apply in August of this year. You're talking about funding in next year's state budget.
Right.
So you want to have money till August of next year at the earliest, and then you're going to have a 3-year contract. So at that point, whatever if your plans have been more finalized for what you're doing at the park, you would have to do the activities, but you might want to relocate them to another location in the park. I mean, it's got a lot of flexibility, but you would have to plan activities that you know you want to have in the park. I mean, you're sure going to have picnic tables, you know, whatever
Yeah.
the other stuff might be. And then if you, and well, I've got to submit a map on the front end of where we think it's going to be. The reality is you can put it anywhere in the park you want. We just do a map at the back end when it's all said and done, and you submit that with your closeout. So there's a lot of flexibility, not in what you choose, but where you put it, and what it looks like when you get done. I mean, a picnic activity can be everything from a table sitting under a tree or in the sun to a nice pavilion. I mean, obviously the budget dictates a lot of that, but you could move the money around in the grant and add other funds to it. And you could actually do 2 of these in the same park or do them in 2 separate parks. Again, we'd have to define that, and we need that direction tonight if you want to move ahead. But you could do it either way, as long as they weren't dependent upon each other.
I would say we certainly move ahead, but I guess, you know, what I'm looking at is, you know, as we're looking at restructuring perhaps the park, and that comes later when you talk about parking or you talk about, you know, obviously was there any question mark on location of the restroom or any change within. I know there were a lot of items added into the diagram that we got. I forget who we got that from, the name of the company, but anyway, that whole timeline drawing of, you know, different spots within the park and what those were, you know, structured to perhaps become. I can't remember if that restroom was actually, you know, that same area as well as the kiosk or not. I guess that was my reason for asking about any kind of overlap or, you know.
Here's what I would suggest. If you authorize us to proceed in engaging Mr. Fox's services, then we would put together an application. I would get it back to you as soon as it's in its completed or draft form, and then you would have an opportunity to make any edits or changes that you wanted. We do have the master plan document. We have the locations of these facilities identified, and so you know, I just want to take advantage of this opportunity to see us improve the park.
And you're going to have a
I would
4-year
agree.
window. You're going to have a year to get until you get a contract, and then you're going to have a 3-year contract. So, I mean, you're going to actually have 4 years from now to get to basically build it wherever, and by then you should have your plans finalized, I would hope. So,
Didn't they say build it and they will come? I know that was a
hopefully
famous
that's
movie.
the idea.
So,
Okay, well, at this point, I think, Mr. O'Neill, you're essentially looking for just a consensus at this point, since this is marked as an information-only item on the agenda. Just direction to move forward with what you're already
Yes,
doing.
if you all
have
are
those too,
in
actually.
agreement.
Right, right.
It is, this, in essence, is under the city manager authorization limit, but you know, the facility selection or the grant that would be applied for, obviously, that's something that's at the council/CRA's discretion. So if there's a consensus of the council to move forward tonight,
Yes.
we will work with Mr. Fox and get a grant application in.
One or two, we'll bring it back to you and make a decision on it. If you're available, I can come on over Thursday, late morning, early afternoon, we can get together if that's good for you.
Yes.
Okay. So here's
I
a
have
appropriate time.
Ms. Spalding signed up to speak on this item. Did you want to speak on this?
First of all, if he gets paid if we get it, that's a no-brainer. Second of all, oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute, Sandra Spalding, 82070 Post Road. Second of all, why not apply for the $200,000 one? Even if we don't get it, what are we gonna lose by applying? You never know, we might get it. Apply for them all. Think about it. Hello, thank you.
Now, are these matching grants?
That's what I was going to explain.
Yeah.
You want me to do that first? Yeah. I understand the 50s are 50,000 no match. If you, and if you apply for more than 50, up to $150,000 project cost, which is basically 112.5 grant, 37.5 your money, is 25.75. 75 them, 25 you. Anything above 150, up to a $400,000 project, is 50-50. And again, if you were in a rural area, you could actually, if you were ready, and I'm not sure you know what that means, but if you were a ready community, which means you were a qualified rural community by the legislature, you could actually apply for $200,000 with no match. But the reality is, since the beginning of the recession, they haven't funded anything above 50s.
Right, right.
So that's, I mean.
But the other point is that if we go for a $200,000 grant, we get it, we've more or less
Then you're
committed
looking at
now to
$200,000 on your
spend.
back pocket to go
We've
with it.
committed to spending $100,000 on
No,
something.
not the 200,000.
Oh, 200.
Yeah, if you hold 150, you committed to spending 37.5 to get 112.5.
Okay. Thank you.
Knew there was a catch.
Mr. Priest, there always is.
Jim Priest, 5100 Sunset Boulevard. Mr. Fox mentioned that we would possibly get this is done on a reimbursement basis. Being as we have allocated funds to already go ahead and resurface Nix Park, could that not be, utilized as part of our contribution, for lack of a better term, or reimbursement possibly from those activities? I think would be one question. And I know I'm speaking out of turn here on it in here, but I would suggest we ask the parliamentarian, okay, about the idea of a losing, or should say a minority position on a vote, being able to go ahead and bring a issue back up, and in this respect, Whiskey River, because I don't believe you actually can do that in here. If that was the case, every time you lose a vote, you could just bring it back up again, bring it back up again, and bring it back up again. I would think your parliamentarian should speak to that issue. And before that can of worm gets opened in here, I would again ask your city attorney to go ahead and ask the courts, okay, about that filing in there, because it may be cheaper all the way around for the city to do
Mr. Priest,
the guidance. I understand,
You're-
but
you're-
you
you're
know,
way
there's
off
not going to
topic
be
at
a
this
time
point.
before it comes to next meeting.
I understand.
And to answer the one question that actually dealt with the grant program, your match has to be spent after you have a contract. So it would have to be after sometime next August when you had a contract in place.
Okay. Anybody else?
Kristen Tonkin, 5115 Sunset Boulevard. I went ahead and looked at the application. It's a 28-page application. It's pretty basic and outright. It's just fill in the blanks. There are several scenarios that they ask you to put yourself toward, like say outdoor activities. They'll have it clumped in a cluster like baseball, softball, swimming pool, tennis, bike paths, and then they had I think there were seven, maybe 12 or 17 paragraphs with a little check by it. And so you get points according to how much of those activities that you have in that. And I also wanted to ask or let you know that, Tom did say that he's not the only person, we're not the only city that he writes for. So he's writing these grants for other cities. So just keep that in mind too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, back up to council.
You just need a consensus, right?
Basically, that's all we're looking for right now is a
Yeah.
consensus for
I'd say
Tom to
go for it.
continue talking to Mr. Fox.
Yeah, I'd say go for it.
Terry? You're not for it?
Oh, you're looking for the consensus?
A consensus, yeah, just your feelings on the subject.
Yeah, I don't see a loss here.
No, yeah. Okay, I feel the same. I think we all got what we need here, right? Okay, very good. Agenda item number 3, second reading, public hearing ordinance number 15-644. Mr. Public, sir.
An ordinance to the code of the city of Port Richey, Florida, amending Article 2, Section 14-27, violations and penalties, and providing for severability and an effective date.
Okay. This is the second reading. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I will. Go out for public comment on this. We've already voted on this item once. Again, all it's doing is bringing this ordinance, as several of the ones that follow here, into line with the uniform fine structure and taking, the state uniform fine structure, which was giving us some difficulty with these ordinances. That being said, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Motion passes. Agenda item number 4, second reading, public hearing ordinance number 15-645. Mr. Public again, please.
An ordinance to the code of the city of Port Richey, Florida, amending Article 1 in general, Section 44-4, use of piers and docks, penalty for violation of section, and providing for severability and an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Any comment? Public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Motion passes. Agenda item number 5, second reading, public hearing ordinance number 15-646.
An ordinance
Mr.
to the
Public.
code of the city of Port Richey, Florida, amending Article 4, water conservation, Section 40-171, penalties for violation, and providing for severability and an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second?
Okay. Out again to public. Anybody have any statements on this? No. Bring it back to council. All in favor?
Aye.
Again? No. Nobody against. It passes. Agenda item number 6, first reading. Public hearing ordinance number 15-647- parking violations.
An ordinance of the Code of the City of Port Richey, Florida, amending Article 2, Section 38-23, parking regulations generally, penalties for violation, and providing for severability and an effective date.
Okay, now this is the first reading. If you would point out to us.
There's the underlines and the strike-throughs. If you look on the second page of the ordinance, Section F, what was changed here is there was some antiquated language regarding the fines,
Mhm.
and there was also reference that any type of traffic citations or parking citations went to a special magistrate. We
Right.
no longer have a special magistrate for code issues.
Right.
So that was stricken. Now, anything written under this section would go in front of the county court as a normal code violation.
Okay. Anybody else on council have any questions on this one?
Just a question that I got from the general public last time over the the wording here. When we go to the sections, 2-299, they were asking, how do I know what my fine is going to be? And I said, well, you'd have to look it up. But is it customary we don't put a fine price?
Well,
in
no,
the way-
the county court system wants, in order for us to utilize the court system for the code enforcement, they want the fines classified as schedules.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. And in here, these are a class 4. If you look at that section 2-299, that's where we define what a Schedule 1 violation is, a Schedule 2. I'd just be guessing if I was gonna try and remember what a Schedule 4 was, but I don't recall. Actually, I think the chief may.
Basically, that answers their question, because they just want to know, why we didn't put that price in there, and I said, I'll ask.
Okay.
So,
And the price being in there, as I understand, is what's basically mucked us up through
That
time.
has caused a problem, and with this one particularly, the reference to the special magistrates, since we
Right.
no
Well,
longer
yeah.
utilize that.
Well, certainly,
anymore.
but again, if the uniform schedule of fines changes and you've got a certain dollar amount in there, all of a sudden we're out of
Yeah.
whack. But like you said, that's the way for the court to handle these
That's the way they want it.
citations.
They want
That's
it to
the
be a
way they
Schedule
want it
3
cited.
fine, so they know exactly.
Right, okay. Any more comments on council?
Well, we asked to put more teeth, I guess. I would just ask, one, does the chief have any questions? And then two, in outlining those particular parking regulations, where you got no parking zone, et cetera, you've got several subcategories in there. Is there any questions you have? I mean, this has been a long time coming, and what we wanted to actually have teeth to this.
In regards to questions, no question. It does definitely define things for us now. And like I said in the past, it gives us the opportunity, if you enact any other parking ordinances, to use it. In regards to the fines, what we can do is we will post the county's fines on our websites, and as they change, we'll change with it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
All right.
Yeah.
So again, this is the first reading of this particular ordinance, but for similar reasons of the other readings. So I look for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Go out to public. Come on up.
Sandy Spalding, 8207 Old Post Road. I have a question. Didn't our city make more money when we had the magistrate and things were brought in front of them with the fines than they will with the county? Just a question. I mean, we're looking to save money, and it's a way we don't have to have trash. No, but I'm just asking. It makes sense. The county gets the money, we only get a small percentage of it. Am I right or wrong? Where before, didn't we get most of the fine, if not all of it?
Traditionally, this is not a question and answer period, but I'll
okay.
tell you, as far as I know, going back to, there was trouble having a magistrate as far as consistency of how the basic violations were treated. So that's why we got away from the magistrate. As
Okay.
far as price goes, I don't know.
Well, I know it's not a question and answer, but we have a different police chief now. Maybe he'd be able to help us more if we can make more money from it. I'll leave you with that. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Anybody else? There you go.
Chief wants to speak, I think.
Would you like to speak, Chief?
Just to answer that, basically, she is correct. If we did it on our own, you do normally get keep more of the fine if you did it in-house versus going to the county.
Okay.
We will follow their rules, and they will take their part.
Okay.
Excuse me, real quick.
Go ahead.
But this was something that you kind of pushed toward, and there was a reason for this, correct? I mean, you felt as though this was the better way to go.
Well, it was the only option we had at the time, and there was no option prior when I came. This had been an issue that had been dead for a while. So right now, it's the best option we have without having the board in play.
Okay.
We wouldn't have to change anything if we were to go to a magistrate. This would be standing verbiage anyway, wouldn't it? I guess.
Go ahead.
If you didn't make any changes to this and you decided to go to a magistrate, that would be fine. There's a lot of problems with using a magistrate. I mean, number one, it's an additional cost to hire a magistrate. Number two, you have the enforcement. A magistrate can fine people. Collecting's another thing.
Exactly.
And I think that was part of the problem before.
Yeah.
With the county court system, now collections on the court's behalf, as far as different code compliance. If somebody doesn't comply with an order of the judge, as the city's prosecutor, I can go back and try and get them held in contempt for disobeying the judge, and then I've got some teeth. With the magistrate, they can issue a fine, as many people do. They just don't pay it. There's nothing the magistrate can do. So that's the concern with the magistrate, is the enforcement. If people pay, you do generally raise more revenue when and if they pay.
That's why we asked for there to be more teeth in the whole process.
Well,
because,
and
you know, we were.
This
getting
was
to
a
it.
whole nother subject that we spent a long time discussing was exactly what you just explained, and that's what I was gonna bring up as far as the magistrate too, is that, you know, this subject that in and of itself was the subject of a lot of discussion here in city council, and that was basically it. A magistrate has no teeth. We can hand out fines all day long, and people just throw them in the trash, and I think probably the only option we have is to like lien their property or something. Then
For
they,
most things,
yeah,
yes.
and then they have to be a resident of the city. If they don't live in the city, you know, there's nothing you can do about it, so. So that's that.
Where were we here?
Any other discussion on this?
I don't think we voted yet, did we?
No, well, we had a first and a second.
Second, right,
didn't
we're
we?
waiting for the final vote.
Absent a city clerk at this point.
She'll be back momentarily, I believe.
Seems like we should really have one around for a vote, don't you think?
Stand in for it? Well, we have Aaron stand in for, and then we just proceed.
Can we do that,
I can't make her city
Joe?
clerk.
I mean, I think
Where'd you go?
you can proceed without having the clerk present. Everything is recorded. I don't know.
Okay, do we have a first and a second?
Yeah.
Haven't made a motion yet, is what.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Go out to public again, since we seem to have a new motion in a second. I don't see much point to it, but I'll throw it out there. Okay, bring it up to council. Let's have a vote. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Agenda item number 7, police impound vehicles to be declared as surplus for auction. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, as you'll see in the packet, we have a list of vehicles here that have been impounded by the city's police department. They have become the property of the city in accordance with the ordinance and state regulations. We're recommending that these vehicles be declared as surplus property, and your authorization is requested to offer these vehicles for sale through the public auction service known as govdeals.com.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question. If, And we had that representative here, it was a long time ago, as we went to this. And there's a lot of vehicles here. Now, I don't know, maybe this has been answered before, but ones that fall through the cracks that, you know, would have to be scrapped or have to be something, I don't know if any of these would fit that particular category. But how does that work? I mean, other than us getting X amount as a share of, you know, gosh, there's at least, I don't know how many vehicles here. What happens if something doesn't basically sell and it's just a scrap item? Is that, you know, we receive something for that as well, I guess?
If it doesn't sell, we would seek alternative means of disposal of that surplus property.
Okay, but it does come back to us. They don't.
Yes.
In other words, there are some things that they won't be able to service if they
It's,
fall.
if
you
it
know,
doesn't
outside.
sell, we have to figure out another way to legally get rid of it, and we need to come back and ask you for your approval on that
Okay.
method.
Okay, yeah, I was just
Okay.
curious about that. Okay.
Anybody
Motion
else?
to approve.
Second.
We got a motion. We have,
Second?
we have Nancy on a second.
Neil was second, actually.
I will, I'll go out on public discussion on this one. Does anybody have any issues with this? No? Okay, bring it up to council. Motion to approve.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 8. Utility Public Works vehicle to be declared as surplus for auction. Mr. O'Neill.
Yes, there is a listing of vehicles on page 39 of your agenda packet from the City Public Works Department. These are vehicles that have been replaced, and they're well beyond their serviceable life, and we're recommending that they be auctioned off at a public auction of the Tampa Bay Machinery Auction.
Okay.
That Ford F-150, that's the one that has the low mileage?
It's
That-
an
That's the
oh-
rust one? Is that the rust one?
I'm sorry, I
Is
didn't
that
hear
the
you.
one that was
Yeah,
rusted
the
out?
frame. The
Yes.
frame was all cracked. I knew that would stick out because the other two, it's always a sore spot. But the other two, it says
come
it says
on.
unknown. It makes it a little easier.
All right, motion to approve.
Yeah, let's get rid of that thing already. The mileage thing is killing
Do
us.
I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I'll go out to public one more time. All right, bring it back up to council. Motion, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We
Nay?
may just want to know what we get, especially Britain, then for that
I do, I wanna
78,000
know.
mile vehicle.
I want to know how much money we get for all this stuff.
Yeah.
We'll report back to you on that.
Can we be told?
Also, I have, before we close, when's the next CRA meeting, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
When
you.
did we
CRA.
schedule the CRA meeting?
I was thinking that you would probably want to have one at the next city council meeting.
Okay, let's do it. Because I got to get that contract going.
Okay.
So would that be
Everybody
after
good
or
with that?
before?
We
Please?
was,
Would that be after or before? If the CRA is the
I would like to do
same?
it before.
Yeah. Don't we usually make it 7 for that? And then 7:30, of course, is our regular meeting?
Generally
We-
speaking, yeah.
we can do that.
Well, what do we
Alright.
have to cover on the CRA besides the splash pad?
That's
Something
the,
else. There was something else that, oh, we wanted to discuss, what else was it? There was-
Stormwater?
Well, that wouldn't be CRA.
No, but
There's a resolution pending also.
Resolution for what?
On
We have a
on CRA?
resolution. Resolution 1504 was pending for CRA at the last meeting that we had. You wanted to wait until the mayor was back.
Oh, okay.
we did have some notes on some revenue things that we were going to talk about. Did that fit in the CRA at the time?
that'd be a council
All right.
discussion.
Well, we really need to have, we actually,
Sounds like we need a workshop.
yeah, we need a workshop. We also need, we also need to get moving on the, I think I'm gonna get in touch with Judy DeBella Thomas, because according to the attorney, some of the Newport Richey people have already taken their classes, and So I just want to find out where they are and let's just get her done. I think the quicker we do it, the less, we don't have that on our back.
All
And
right.
we could probably do something online for the training, for the ethics training.
I'll get some information for you and I'll email it to you and also have it ready
Yeah,
for the next
that's
council.
what you've been waiting for, so. Okay. Anybody else?
6 days to Culver. I stopped there today, talked to some people out back, and they had given them a date for opening. If they proceed on schedule, 6 days, and they will be open.
There's a lot of cars there tonight, so maybe that's staff training.
Tom, do we know anything about the Asian restaurant? If everybody keeps asking me about that, and I said, I don't.
That's a
Well, it's moved very slowly, but very rapidly over the last month, and I understand they're contemplating an opening in the near future. Is that correct, John?
Yes, they had a change of contractor, should be within the next few weeks.
Excuse me, John, anything else going on in the city that's coming up new? New businesses coming in or anything like that that you could share with us?
We've got plans for an expansion over on Leo Kid to the medical research place. I believe it's called ISOMed or something. I'm not sure exactly the name of it. Anyway, we have plans in right now for that. We have more remodel plans coming in from Sand Pebble. Apparently some more condos out there being remodeled, so. And Dunkin's well underway, as you can see. So
Dunkin'.
that's Dunkin'
Dunkin'
Donuts.
Donuts next to Culver's.
Right next to Culver's.
Oh, for God's sake, we don't need that there. He'll be there every morning.
No, just every now and then for the coffee.
That was literally
Can't
finger
afford
pointing
it.
right there.
I know.
I believe that's improper behavior.
Ah, I just know he'll be there. I'll have to be watching.
All right, there being no more, no more items before council, I call this, well, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do we get it first?
Oh, we are. Yeah, first.
Let's do it.
I didn't hear first. Okay.
Okay.
Done.
Oh, I didn't hear it first. Tammy, do you have it first?
Maybe Nancy was. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, all right. Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Hey, Joe.
Yeah, all right.
What's that?
Doing it again.
Oh yeah, I started chewing gum again.
You better stop. You want a mint? Get a mint.
You're right.
Suck on a mint.
You're right.
You gotta look in the mirror.
No.
Take a side look.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm gonna do. We haven't gone to the League of Cities, we haven't gone to.